I'm Kit Bradley with another episode of Writerly Talk. This time out, I'm going to say something that needs to be said and will probably be the most important thing I say on this channel. Fuck traditional publishers. They're corrupt and we should tear them all down. As an indie writer, a lot of people think I'm not supposed to say that. It's true. In the ethical standards for indie writers, as per the Alliance of Independent Authors, I'm supposed to be courteous to publishers. Hell, the only advantage of being an indie writer is that you don't have to play by the rules. You can get weird facial tattoos or hold unpopular or controversial opinions. It's the benefit of having no master. Needless to say, I don't belong to the Alliance of Independent Authors, in part because I don't think that it's ethical to remain silent in the face of injustice. Being polite to corrupt people only enables their corruption, after all. And if no other reason, there's no reciprocation. To the traditional publishing industry, we are vanity writers. That's fucked up. Right now, I want to emphasize that none of my criticism here is directed towards indie writers or indie publishers or those who struggle with the biz. It's directed at the big publishers like HarperCollins, Random House, Macmillan, Simon & Schuster, and Hachette Livre in specific, as well as all brands, labels, and houses under them. It is also directed, however, to everyone who wants to ape their success, who feel the problem isn't the structure of publishing, but only that they aren't at the top of the pyramid. My problem is with the pyramid. It also is with those writers who support the corrupt business of publication at the expense of independent writers, publishers, and their supporters. I'll take it as a given that no one who seriously thinks about the production of anything, from kitchenware to the book in their hands, believes that big corporate enterprises are automatically superior than small independent businesses. To me, if you think that big publishing houses automatically produce better material than the indie press, that's no different than saying Walmart is better than local businesses or that Budweiser is better than your local microbrewery. The position isn't wrong, it's farcical. But at least with Walmart, people are willing to talk about the harm that is done to small-town America, about its multifaceted exploitation of its employees and the damage it does to communities and the environment. People talk about the harm that corporate centralization has done to the country and the world. The attitude that big publishers and many of the writers who work for them take is that independent writers are engaged in vanity. That's unique in the arts. Indie filmmakers or musicians aren't relegated to vanity status. Many indie artists, other than writers, are seen as possessing exceptional integrity. They're not selling out to the system of corporate profiteering that dominates the distribution of the arts. For writers, no. The industry and many industry writers don't believe we have integrity. We are vain. It's also, well, downright un-American to say that people who go into business for themselves are vain. In any other profession, in or out of the arts, starting your own business is seen as virtuous and brave. It's hard, it's recognized to be hard, and the people who take the chance, even if they fail, are seen as having done the right thing. But not writers. We, of all professions, are different. We can exist only if some asshole in New York City says it's okay. We, out of all the jobs and businesses in the world, are somehow diminished if we take a chance on ourselves. How is that possible? So ingrained is obsequity towards traditional publishers that independent writers are discouraged from telling the truth about the corruption of traditional publication. We are encouraged to be polite in the face of corruption, lies, and insults. And again, this is unique in the art. It is easy to find artists who discuss the corruption of the production and distribution of any other form of art. Many musicians are quite open about the corruption of the music business. Many filmmakers are open about the corrupt practices of the movie business. Painting and the fine arts are notorious for success being dependent on a small number of gallery owners, and it is generally acknowledged that this is a corrupt practice. But amongst most writers, it is considered inappropriate to say what is true, and it is said in all the other arts that the business of publication is corrupt. Of course, there's more. The system is also sexist, racist, and classist. I'll do a whole nother video about the tyranny of grammar. The system as designed is made to ensure that the right authors are promoted and that the wrong ones are ignored. But the whole system is run by a bunch of well-to-do, Ivy League educated group of white people living in New York City. The very idea that this group of people can understand what poor people or people of color or people who don't live in New York City is absurd. It's part of the corruption. It is believed to be true and defended vigorously. The deafening silence of critique about the simple fact that publishing business is corrupt is appalling and unique. Musicians and filmmakers know that the dudes in Los Angeles live in a moral and ethical swamp. They speak quite openly about the extent to which they're out of touch with the modern musical trends or what happens to regional or local markets, about the bigotry and ignorance in their profession. It isn't considered for people both in and out of the film and music industry to speak matter-of-factly about the biases of the people who decide what art is and is not produced and distributed. The difficulty for women, people of color, the poor, and other outgroups to gain acceptance is widely known and acknowledged in the arts, except for writing. We know that black actors and directors have a harder time than white ones. We know that women are looked down on in the music business, especially if they don't look like Taylor Swift. Every year during the awards season, people even talk about the corruption in film and music, but not so in publication. This speaks to not only the corruption of traditional publishers and the immense influence and power they have in the minds and hearts of writers. They have convinced almost all of us that it is fitting and proper that all successful art should pass through their gates, and that any criticism of traditional publication is forbidden at the cost of what? To me, that's the weird thing. I understand why people who are successful in a corrupt system defend that system. It's ignorant and cowardly, but understandable. Who wants to say that at least some of their success comes from their gender, race, or social class? That they're networked insiders and they're successful on that account? No one wants to say that. Their egos construct a fantasy land where none of those issues play a role in their success. They didn't succeed because they were a white man who knew people in the business. Nope. They entered purely through merit, then almost all successful people in their field are the same way isn't a sign of corruption. I don't get what writers who will almost certainly never work with a big publisher gain from our silence about their corruption. Which is why I'm making this video. I want to talk about frankly and openly the corruption in traditional publication. That it's wrong for them to dismiss indie writers, and the system is mired in bigotry and classism, and it'd be best for the authors and audience if the system were torn down and replaced with something better. I have some ideas what that might look like too, but that'll probably have to come after my video about the tyranny of grammar. Of course, I'm not the only person who has said this. Among writers of color, feminist writers, queer writers, poor writers, well, at least some of them are very open about all of the subjects I'm talking about. I'm one of them, and this is my way of adding my voice to theirs. I've been Kit Bradley with Writerly Talk. Subscribe with notifications. Thanks for listening, and I hope to see you again soon. And if you want to talk to me, come into my Facebook page or leave something below. Bye-bye.